All right. So I was just reading a message from Christina. Christina comes to every ministry call that we have. So I was checking to see where she was. I didn't see her yet. So welcome. This is May's Birthwork is Ministry call. And I'm Shanna Bradley. I'm a mom to 6 here on earth and 2 in heaven. And I'm a doula trainer, childbirth educator, a whole lot of other things. But I just love God and I love birth. And I realize that there's just not as many Christ-like, like-minded women that are necessarily local to me, or it's harder to find community and birth work sometimes as a believer. And so I keep meeting all these amazing women who are doing amazing things locally, internationally, and I want to share their stories so that it can hopefully inspire you to grow your birth work into ministry as well, and whatever that looks like. And so I am super excited to let Sarah introduce herself. But my friend Sarah, she is local to me, but she is amazing and top notch. And I send everybody to her that I can, and I love to sing her praises, but she does a ton locally. She's done amazing things to change lactation education, lactation support, mom support, all kinds of things here locally, changed literally the structure of the hospital in the way that they do things and don't do things to better serve moms and babies. And so I love her for all that, but then I love her even more because she has a heart for international work too. She goes overseas annually, does lactation and education and support all in different countries as well. And I can't wait till we do a trip together. And the last couple of years, she's been going to the same place. So she's going to share a little bit about that with you ladies today too. So I'll have her introduce herself, tell you a little bit about who she is, what she does, why she does it, how she does it. And then we'll have Q&A, and then we'll do prayer requests and praises at the end, and then pray for Sarah and all of the amazing things that she does. So Sarah, whenever you get a chance, introduce yourself, tell us kind of your story. You've been doing this
Yep,
for a long time, but as much of it as you
I
want to
have. Yeah, great. Well, I'm just really feel blessed and honored to have Shayna to have asked me to present. I wanted to tell you I have my 9-year-old granddaughter here, and I have high hopes. I tell her all the time that she's going to be a nurse midwife someday, because she has a real heart and passion for babies and is just very, very natural about all of these things. So we're at her brother's ball game. We're at the baseball field. We're in the back seat of my car, and she said, "Can I come with you?" And I said, "Absolutely. I want you to hear these things." So thank you for that glowing introduction. I have been an RN going on 39 years, which is hard for me to believe, and probably been part of thousands of births. My work has been in hospitals. I worked as a labor and delivery, postpartum, and newborn nurse for about 28 to 30 years. About 10 years ago, well, actually, about 12 to 13 years ago, the hospital system that I was working for and the hospital birthplace really was looking to build their lactation program. And I feel like, I don't know, I was kind of one of the people chosen to, kind of be a part of that and really try to drive practice as Shayna kind of mentioned. Um, Little did I know that they would kind of hand the baton to me and say, Sarah, you go to bat for us. You go because you'll say it and you'll say it like it is and you'll make things happen. And you know, I am kind of a forthright person like that, but I really try to take the Lord's leading and really pray about things. And just a lot of good things have happened. Is our practice perfect in our birthplace? No, we do about 250 deliveries a month. We're getting new nurses all the time, so I have to reprogram their brains on the things that they think they know or are being told maybe by some old nurses or new nurses that just don't know any better. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here when it comes to birth work and um, really supporting women and families in their choices and getting them well informed. So not only did I do the bedside work, but then I began doing the lactation work at the bedside. And then after about 2 years of doing that, I went to my administration and I said, we really need to do something about reaching out into our community. So can we please have a program where we see people after they've delivered and, have gone home from the hospital. They said, sure, but you're going to teach CPR and you're going to do all these other things until and now that the program is built, a lot of those duties have, gone to the side. Praise the Lord. Because it's not that I don't like CPR, but it's like I don't want to be an instructor. I want to teach people about lactation and about birth and supporting women and babies. So we worked, and another one of the consultants and I, to build our lactation program, and we now have 3 of us working in the outpatient realm. We have a warm phone line that we're available. We do a lot of counseling by phone, and people also come to us. And we're not, just segued into helping people that deliver at our facility. It's really anybody in the community and the surrounding community. So we get a lot of people that have delivered at a local birth center. We have another big hospital system, and then we certainly serve everyone who has had home deliveries too, as Shana can attest to that. So that's kind of where I come from. I also do a lot of the childbirth education because I do have a passion for the labor and delivery process and newborns. And then I've developed a staff curriculum. So everyone who is new to our birthplace goes through 8 hours of my education and training. And I teach for an outside company also that helps people get their certification, so BLS training, and Shana is one of those great students that was part of a class that had 100% pass rate. So that was really great. That was last year. So that's kind of where I come from with this. And I do have some slides to share. And I think what I'll do is stop my video, since I am using a hotspot for the internet. And I'll start sharing my slides and tell you a little bit about how my the hosts, you got to give me permission to share my slides, Shana. In 2015, through my church, I go to a very large, it's actually a United Brethren church in Fort Wayne, which is a big city that is near us here in Columbia City. If you go under the share screen, it will have a place where it says, anyone can share. Is it good? Yep, good. So in 2015,
So I think we lost you. We can't see or hear you. I think she turned off her hotspot all the way. So I'll wait till she figures that out. It was very sweet of her to be able to go sit in her car during her grandson's, or her son, I can't remember if it was her son or grandson's, but baseball, and do this for us. So Sarah, she didn't touch on this, but I want to touch on this, that she has helped to bring the only human donor milk bank that we have in our area. I don't even know how close the nearest one is, but she figured out how to do that and brought it to the hospital. Anybody within that who does birth in that hospital, she's with DuPont Hospital in Fort Wayne, has access to free pasteurized donor milk while inpatient. And then if you leave the hospital and your baby's like a preemie or has medical needs or things like that, you can continue to purchase, or insurance may cover the pasteurized milk. And she's a big component of milk sharing and things like that. She leads, or they have a mom-led breastfeeding support group that's really amazing, with a private Facebook page that people just love. And I have had a couple clients and myself who have needed donor breast milk. And through those avenues, I've been able to get those for myself and for clients. And so she's done so much within the community. She made it so the hospital would follow, can't remember what it's called, like good practices for formula versus working with formula companies. So before, her hospital would give out formula to everybody, and it was like, here's all your free samples. And she realized that that was actually hurting successful breastfeeding, and that it crossed the lines of kind of like buying
The
off.
fair code. Yeah,
Yes.
the fair code of
There
marketing.
you are. Okay. Yeah. I'm like, I know she knows all these words. I don't remember what they are, but
Yep.
so her hospital doesn't give away formula, just like free samples to everyone and pushes that. You can still get formula, but the hospital pays for all of that, correct? And so
Correct.
it's just a different system that Sarah helped put into place to really help women thrive and be successful and supported in breastfeeding. So I have not seen that in other hospitals. So, okay, Sarah, go ahead. I was just
It's
talking more
really
about you.
it's really hard when you go to your financial officer and say, hey, Brian, we're going to have to start paying for something that we didn't have to pay for before, but when I explained to him the ethics of it, it really resonated with him. And he was the one who has continued to support our efforts, our outpatient efforts, and our efforts in the community. So I'm not sure where I kind of
So,
logged out.
yeah, so you said you were going to share your slides. We never saw slides, and then we lost you. So,
Okay. Okay. So I go to a very large church in the Fort Wayne area, where I live, just in a rural community outside of the Fort Wayne area. And in 2015, my church was actually partnering with um, Food for the Hungry. Are you seeing the slides now?
yes. Well, no, we just see the Zoom page. There we go. Okay. Yep.
Ugh. Okay. Okay, so that is an organization, and we were going there into 3 very rural communities in Nicaragua, and trying to kind of like teaching them to fish, not giving handouts, but teaching them how to farm and how to, you know, m- build things for themselves. And so one of my very good friends had the idea to go and empower women there in Nicaragua and teach them to sew. So I was a part of this big sewing ministry through my church. So we went 2 years and went and did a sewing ministry. We made a situation where we made machines available. We took machines, left them, had it like a library system and so forth. So that's really how I kind of got involved in short-term missions trips. And then our church kind of stopped the partnership with Food for the Hungry, and we have moved into a lot of different directions. But one of them is with international needs, and so the opportunity came in 2019, no, 2018, to go to Colombia, South America, and we were actually in the Barranquilla. I'm going to hide my floating meeting controls so you can actually see the whole map. So we basically were up in this northern region here, if you can see my cursor, of Colombia, so right on the Venezuelan border. And so we began that ministry. And so in 2018 and 2019 and 2020, right before COVID hit, I went on this sewing ministry because it really, warmed my heart that I was empowering other women through a skill set, that God had given me long ago in my life. I mean, so when I was there, just on this most recent trip, see if I can get the slide to advance, I was here with this lovely group of people. So this is, I think gonna hide the thumbnail. These are all folks from my church. And so on these mission trips to Colombia, we do sewing, we do construction work. We partner with a medical clinic that sees nearly, anywhere between about 600 to 1,000 people in the week that we're there. And we partner with some of the physicians, the Columbia physicians from other bigger communities. They come in, but we bring medical personnel also. So it's quite an undertaking. A big part of that week is evangelism, because obviously that's what this is about, right? Sharing Jesus with other people, not only through the work and the love that we show them, but also by sharing the gospel. So that's what you're seeing here, is this kind of cross-section group of people. And what happened in 2020 when I was there is that we had taken a physician from the United States with us, and she was actually from the Wisconsin area. And she and I chatted about, our background in medicine and so forth. And she said, so you have a very interesting skill set. And if I have somebody that comes through this week, I'm sending them down to you in the sewing area, and you're going to give them breastfeeding consultation. And so I guess my slides are just a little out of order here. I kind of wanted to share with you the community, but here, this was in February of 2020. And so these were two women that came for some questions and some counsel. And, it really pushed me, because I was like, I don't have all my tools. I don't have my scale. I don't have this, or I don't have that. So I really had to rely on that internal gut, and then also, asking them the right questions to help to kind of guide, what their issues were, and to reassure them that things were going well. And both of them had questions really about baby behaviors. And this teeny little girl, I mean, look how small she is. I'm not, I'm about 5'10", about 175 pounds. And this girl is just absolutely teeny tiny. And this baby was like 5 weeks old. And I said, I had to ask her, like, is she wearing different clothes than she was wearing a couple weeks ago? And she said yes. And then, it just was like, she was just sure that she didn't have breast milk. And that's, like one of the main reasons that people stop breastfeeding, is they have this idea that there's not milk there. And so I had to reassure her that her baby would not have grown. And the next question I asked was, are you only giving the baby your breast? And she said yes. Like, she was afraid to kind of tell me that, like, am I doing the wrong thing? And I'm like, no, everything is going really well. So this kind of set off the idea in this community's mind to say, hey, why don't we have you come back the next time and maybe work with some of the pregnant women, to educate them about what might be coming with their birth process and with their mothering process, and then work with the moms and babies too. So that's the way that this kind of started. So I'm going to go back and show you the group of people that I went with this year. And this lady here is my dear sister Ruth. I'm one of 9 kids, and I'm the youngest. I'm right here. And she is the second oldest. And she's 79 years old and 79 years young, because she is just absolutely amazing and kept up with everybody else on this trip. So she was my helper, and she spent about 50 years of her life in the nursing field as a surgical nurse. So she doesn't have the birth mindset. She loves moms and babies, and that's all it took. And she's just was a real grandmotherly presence, and an amazing spiritual support for me on this trip. So here's some pictures. Another aspect of what is done. This is Dr. Brad Camp, and he's an ophthalmologist from our church, and he does the exams on all of the children that attend this school. So this is kind of a center where there's a school, but it's also, they have a sewing center, and they do a church out of this whole area. And so he has the task of examining all of the school children, as well as anybody from the community that comes in. And so that is a great service. And he's been on each of the trips with me to Columbia. in this top picture, that was the first day we're there, and they had a beautiful church service for us. And it's always First Fruits Sunday. So they talk about giving, what you have, right? For the purpose of the gospel. And so they really went all out and made this beautiful display on their altar. In the bottom picture, we have a special night that is just for women. And so they invite not only the women from the community and the women that we've been serving, but the women from the church. And we just have a great evening of fellowship and singing. Even though we don't speak the same language, we find ways to communicate with each other, and it is an absolutely beautiful thing. And this year I had the blessing. I was asked to kind of give a testimony, so I was able to talk about how the Lord has really moved in my life and just, driven me to where I am. So this was our ladies' night, and it was a really, really special night. Here's just some pictures of the community that we served in. This area is part of Barranquilla, Colombia, but it's actually called La Playa, and it's really considered a slum. Basically, La Playa means beach, if you don't know that, and it's not a really lovely beach or anything like that. And the area really has just kind of turned it over to these people, and they brought in stone and gravel to kind of fill it, but it's a very marshy area. And the further in you get, the kind of the more impoverished you see it be. And of course, any of you with missions and I know we have places like this in the United States too, and I'm very United States centric when I think of this, but I don't throw my trash in my yard, but they don't have anywhere to put it. When you look at this picture on the right, it kind of looks like a beautiful waterway, but it's actually their septic system is there. And when we were there this year, there was actually, kids and so forth out there swimming. And it's very heart-wrenching for me because of we you know we live in a place where we have indoor plumbing and everything. So here's just another picture. They are getting cinder blocks, and they're making some more stable houses, but it's still quite impoverished. So every day we brought the message of Jesus and how uniquely made each of these women were, and how uniquely God designed their babies. And so this is the image that my sister and I have used the last 2 years. My sister actually knits, and so she walks around with knitting needles so they can actually see the process as we say Psalm 139, for you created my inmost being. You put me together in my mother's womb. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. This I know full well. And we just started each day by saying that, and then did an add-on each day with a devotion with this. And I think that this image actually came from you, Shayna. At some point I saw it and I'm like, can you share that with me? And we've made copies of this, and I laminate them. And so the women have that to kind of take with them from that week. The the education again that I do in the morning, I spent about 3 hours with women that were pregnant and had not delivered yet, talking about spontaneous labor and delivery, and what does labor look like, what happens with your body, because so many of them give me their birth story, not the ones that are pregnant, but then the mothers that, oh, I had a C-section. And then I ask, well, what happened? Well, I was bleeding, but she wasn't really in labor. So what they don't really understand is the process that their body is going to go through when labor starts, with the bloody show, and that's part of the natural process. So I'm just trying to bring them the education, because they really have none. And so again, I'm an old labor and delivery nurse, and I love the process of delivery, and I count it as a true blessing to have been part of thousands of people's births. I see people now and they're like, oh, you were my nurse, or, oh, this was the baby, or, and then, maybe now I've been in it long enough that those babies are coming back and having babies of their own. So that's the beauty of staying in birth work for long term. The afternoon is spent with breastfeeding mothers and just mothers. And so it's not all about, breastfeeding, but a whole day is dedicated to breastfeeding. And then, of course, just about, what I call attachment or responsive mothering, where they get to, I tell them about holding their babies, because you can never hold your baby enough. And then the other really neat part of the process is that in both classes, I talk about how conception actually happens. And then we also go through the stages, what a baby at 4 weeks in utero looks like, what a baby at 8 weeks, and the things and the development that the baby is having. And my real desire next year is to hopefully take that piece of education and actually give it to the middle school and the high school students there in the school, because I feel it's important when you understand that, oh, my baby can begin to hear at so many weeks gestation, and that all the things, it's a real attachment that happens, instead of it just kind of being this separate process of connecting and attaching. So this is a baby at 36 weeks in utero, and it's just amazing, that these pictures are available. And then this, of course, is El Parto, the birth of the baby. And this is actually one of Cortland's cousins. That's Christian. When he was first born, and I have this picture and use it a lot, but it's a just a beautiful process. And anybody who has been a bystander to see birth, or actually given birth yourself, knows what an amazing thing it is that our body is able to do. Another one of the days, we use this as a graphic, and it's the idea of Yahweh. And when we breathe, we are actually saying the name of God, the Yahweh, Yahweh. And so my sister had a beautiful devotion that she does with this. And so we intertwine that in with the laboring moms, or teaching them about birth and about breathing. And then I also intertwined it with teaching the mothers that have their baby that sometimes you just need to breathe. Sometimes you need to take deep breaths and really trust the instincts that God has placed in you. So Yahweh is the name of God, if in case somebody doesn't know that. But saying Yahweh with each breath that we take, then we are saying and professing the name of the Lord. And so here are just some pictures. In this bottom left picture is my interpreter, and she has been amazing. She's been the same interpreter. Her name is Eliana. The last 2 years, and she is still mastering the English language, but definitely has a grasp of birth and mothering, because she has 2 children of her own. So she just really was ideally placed with me. There were a lot of other, interpreters that, could have been told, go and work with Sarah. And this top picture, this is the classroom that we were given. We were up on an upper level, again, in this complex. And so we took a lot of opportunity, obviously, to pray for the women. And what you're seeing in this right-hand picture is my sister and I actually laying hands and using frankincense oil to anoint these women prior to birth and to pray over them. And interestingly enough, this lady that you see in this picture really opened up as the week went on. And she admitted this was actually her second baby, that she was quite depressed, and that she just didn't really want to even leave her house. And she showed up every day. So that says something about maybe the connection that she felt and she began to make with us. She did share, though, and I said, would you be willing maybe to start coming to church here, because there would be women, to surround you. And she said, well, I have a lady that comes to my house. And I said, oh, okay. And she said, and she talks about the Bible with me. And I said, well, that's good. And I said, And I don't know how the subject came up, but I found out that she was a Jehovah Witness that has been coming into her home. And so, it just really prompted again, each time I look at this picture, each time I see this lady, for greater and greater need for prayer and intervention in her life and the lives of her two children now. This is just some pictures of me, trying to teach them some natural ways to manage discomfort and the pains of labor. And here's my, not my placenta, but my prop. And again, just really a delightful time with these ladies, preparing them for birth and praying for spontaneous vaginal birth. Here's lots of pictures with me and the mamas and the babies. And this year, just lots and lots of breastfeeding moms, and I was so delighted. And they just, the best part was that they walk in holding their babies because, in the United States, we got car seats and they carry the babies in car seats. And I'm just like, pick your baby up and hold your baby. And I'll show you a picture. The picture is another, again, graphic that we used at the end of the week to just really, again, tie in the fact that God knew about their baby. God knew about them even when they were formed in their mother's womb and before they were born. And so just trying to use, really beautiful graphics. So here's where I want to tell you about kind of how I partnered with my sewing ministry. So my sewing ministry and myself made ring slings. And we talked about, holding your baby and keeping your baby close and wearing your baby. And Cortland can attest to this because she saw me make some of these this winter in preparing for this trip. And so here we see the moms trying out their slings and really, really, really loving them. And it delighted me that I could kind of twine the sewing ministry in with this ministry and still, feel, again, it's all about empowering the women. So they all posed for a picture with me one of the days after we had given those. Another opportunity that we have is to sponsor the students that go there at school. And so in the right-hand picture is our young lady that we give monthly to ensure that she has the beautiful uniforms that they wear. In fact, they make these uniforms there in the sewing center. And I didn't put a picture of one of the gals who works there in the sewing center now, but she was actually my student in 2018. And I really, really could tell that she had very sharp skills and very good at sewing. And I recommended that she should be someone that's hired. And so she is working in there now. Vanessa is her name. But this is Shayla, and she is a freshman in high school. And so it's just our delight to be able to do that. The other thing that we do at the end of the week is we just bring all the ladies together and we have fun. And we do a morning of charades. We give them a Spanish Bible, and we just offer to, be the hands and feet of Jesus and just tell them that we love them and make sure that they understand how much they are loved. All right. That's the slides that I made. I feel like I talked 500 mile an hour, but
No, I love that. So tell us what it looks like that you generally go February, March.
yeah, usually the end of February is kind of what they're gearing towards. At the beginning of February, they have this thing that goes on in Columbia, and it's kind of like the debacle that we have down in New Orleans. What is I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
And it's really a nasty time to be there. I mean, there's a lot of like really satanic things going on. And they just said, how about we wait till after that? And then also the kids are back in school because they want the children to see that, hey, there is a group of people that come because they love Jesus and they, that they really care and they, I think some of them think, like, I mean, like I work, so taking a week off of work and then the expense of the trip, they don't know that, but it's, like you talk to the interpreters and they just think, oh, you're just going to go home and like do nothing. And it's like, no, I'm going to go back to work. I work. This is what I do.
So you'll be going
Um,
in the end of next February.
yes. Yep.
Okay.
And the trip is set already. Yep. So, I just, I know you asked, how I felt led by the Lord. And like I said, it was very interesting the way that this really transpired. And then certainly, I mean, I feel like maybe met you around how long we've known each other, a couple years,
20,
right?
21, maybe 21.
Yeah, right. So, getting to know you and your passion for not only, birth in the United States, but worldwide birth is just, it's an amazing thing. And I really admire the work that you do. And um, I, again, I love birth, and, I have an even greater passion now for breastfeeding and for, um, helping moms to succeed with that. I guess I didn't say I'm a nurse, but I'm also internationally board certified in lactation, so I'm an IBCLC.
Which is the highest credential for lactation, correct? And
Yes, it is.
so it's pretty clear what you do overseas as far as how you spread the gospel and share the gospel. For those who don't get that opportunity or haven't yet, how do you feel like the Lord leads you, or what opportunities have you had locally working for an actual hospital where you're probably limited, even though Sarah likes to push the bounds of limitations at her hospital, but where do you see in like someone's daily life that they can pour into the moms and babies that the Lord brings to them?
Yeah. Well, I think what I have found in the years that I have done this, and not just lactation, but as a labor and delivery nurse, that really when you're open, God really does place people in your path for a reason. And one of the ways that I feel like I have really been used is that I was 18 years old when I had my first child. So I was young and very ill prepared. But God, over the years, brought me those teenage moms, and so I could say it's going to be okay, like you're going to love this baby, and you can be a good mom. And so I think being open to, using yourself and even some of your, where you've maybe feel like you've failed in life or you've had shortcomings is the first way. Um, Another way is I'm not ashamed to tell somebody I'm a Christian, and I've had a lot of opportunity to serve many Muslims, Hindus, and so forth, and I'm not ashamed of the gospel. And so, just being willing, to say, the Lord leads my life, and I love you, and you never know, that little mustard seed that's dropped there could change things. So um, I've done a lot of praying, especially when I worked at the bedside, and praying quietly, not out loud. But I know that many, times when I was concerned, or maybe, like, oh, this baby isn't going to come out, just able to use prayer. So just be willing to do that. And, when you wake up and roll over, just ask, okay, God, what does today have in store for me?
Awesome. I love that. Anything else that you wanted to share with the group before we open it up to some questions? Okay,
I can't think of anything.
awesome. All right, ladies, what are your questions for Sarah? Have any of you ever taken a lactation training or wanted to be an IBCLC? More about kind of what she does here or there. This is your time to pick the brain of somebody who's been doing this a really long time. So I always pick Sarah's brain when it comes to lactation. So,
It's okay.
and if you can't unmute yourself, you can also ask in the chat too. I did get a hold of Christina. So like I said, Christina comes to every meeting, but her husband's in the hospital. So they are currently in the hospital, but he's doing okay. And she said the Lord's really moved in it. Potential heart attack. And I've never met her husband, but Christina is much younger than me. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. But yeah, so we will pray for her for sure. But she always has questions. She always keeps a running list of questions. So
I think one of the things that, no matter what type of work that you do, if you don't know about the 10 steps to successful breastfeeding, they really are honed on setting people up for success in the early days. And when you have success in the early days, you'll have long-term success, because the goal with breastfeeding is not only starting to breastfeed, but having breastfeeding going for a long time, the duration, and then also just exclusive breast milk or breastfeeding feedings. So if you're not familiar with the 10 steps, I would become familiar with those. That's it's very integral in the early days. And part of those 10 steps had to do with how I was able to approach my administration and my financial officer about the formula, because that step 2 is to or step 1 is to that we abide by the fair code of marketing of breast milk substitutes. And part of that means hospitals pay for their formula. It just is ethical.
yeah. What is your question?
Is it my turn?
Yeah, go ahead. What's your question?
Oh, okay, awesome. Thank you so much for the presentation. It was really enlightening, and it has given me such great, has bolstered my faith and also my drive to do what I do here in Canada. And my question is, how long did it take to become an
IBCLC, internationally
Yes.
board certified lactation consultant? So
Yes.
there are 3 pathways for IBCLC. And certainly, because I had worked at the bedside and as a nurse, and so I had all the college credentials, and also had the firsthand experience, because they take into account hours spent with breastfeeding, and supporting breastfeeding. So there are 3 pathways, and the way that you find out kind of which pathway, which of the 3 you fit into, is by visiting IBLCE. They are our regulating board. And so it didn't take me long, because again, set out to do it. I took a 45-hour course, which Shayna took last year. And within the time of taking that course, within 3 weeks, I finished the other 45 credit hours needed to apply. Plus, I had the clinical experience and everything else in line. And so I took that course, applied, did all, submitted everything, and took my board certification that same year. For others, my husband is putting chairs away in the back of the car. I think the ball game's over. For others, it can take longer. And, it's usually within about a 5-year span that people work on kind of attaining that. So that's the best I can tell you, is visit the site or type in IBCLC. How do you become an IBCLC? It comes up through a Google search, because I just did it today. This is my recertification year. So every 5 years, we have to recertify, either with education hours or to sit and take the exam again. And actually, I'm going to sit and take the exam again this year, because I really want to know what they're asking. And it is a worldwide test. That's the interesting thing about IBCLC. It is not just, United States centric.
So because she's in Canada. So I wanted to ask you
Mhm.
if same thing in Canada.
Yep. Worldwide. Yep. We need breastfeeding support everywhere. And you know, depending on even the population of people that you serve, um, you know, like there's just a great need. And, you know,
Yeah.
we need more of us. That's all I can say.
I will say the baseline for pathway, the first pathway is $1,000 of $1,000, 1,000 hours. I feel like I need to go to bed. Of breastfeeding education or one-on-one or breastfeeding groups, but 1,000 hours. So if you're working like in a hospital, like Sarah was, she had all of that one-on-one interaction or teaching classes or groups, but 1,000 hours, and you have 5 years to be able to accumulate that 1,000 hours. And I don't know what that looks like in Canada, but for a lot of women in the US, if you're not a nurse, the pathway that I see the most is WIC, so women, infant, and children. So where you can get formula and breastfeeding support and, you know, nutritional support. They have like peer counselors and they have other positions within WIC. And I see that a lot of ladies take that route of actually being paid to work for WIC part-time to be able to add up those hours because they really want to be an IBCLC and they're not a nurse. So I don't know what you have in Canada that would be equal to WIC. It's a government program
Right. And
here in the US, but
I think another thing to keep in mind is like start small, like get just a certification in lactation. There's a certified lactation specialist, a certified lactation counselor, certified lactation educator.
there you go.
Sorry, I muted. Typically that is like a 45-hour course that's given, and there's a test at the end to get the certification. So, you know, yeah, it's possible though not to be a healthcare provider and get the hours. It's just a little more difficult. So
Can you put that the one that you teach for? Could you put that
yes,
link in the chat box?
in the chat.
I did
Sure.
it in person. It was a full week. Is so much information. And Sarah said, if you can come in person, come in person. And I'm so glad I did because I'm a
Right.
much better learner that way. But they do offer online courses as well. So, and this would be like the first
Yep.
level of working towards
Mhm.
lactation or your IBCLC.
Yep. So check lactation education consultants. And you can see the educational offerings that we offer.
Yeah, so we have a question about lip and tongue ties. So what are the options for mothers
Yeah.
whose babies have tongue ties and lip ties?
Well, one of the things that you have to understand, even though I practice at the highest level of lactation that there is, I do not, in my scope of practice and my credentials, do not allow me to diagnose, but I can make observations. And so what I have to understand is the mechanisms of, suckling and, are they transferring milk and all of those things. What I have worked on, and this has taken 10 years, is establishing bridges with providers so that I'm able to call or I'm able to talk to parents and say, this is what I'm seeing, and this is what I need you to tell Dr. So-and-so that I've observed. I still have providers that don't recognize it. There are, though, many that have come around to say, okay, well, if she thinks it's a problem, we'll look at it. In the United States, they're either clipped or they get lasered, usually through a pediatric dentist. And again, it really depends on the provider. Goodness, I keep hitting mute. It depends on the provider. It depends on the severity. But we have to tread that territory very carefully because I feel like there's many that want to just, kind of put everything on, well, I'm having breastfeeding problems, so it must be a tongue tie. And it's not the cause of all breastfeeding problems. So that's where having skilled workers and referring and not, not being too quick to just jump to that as a problem with breastfeeding.
Any other questions?
One of the things,
Yeah.
if you do, sorry,
Go ahead.
if you suspect that there is a problem with the tongue, I would say protect the milk supply. That is one of the most important things you can do for the mothers that you serve. Because if you don't have a milk supply, it's very difficult to help a baby to breastfeed. So if you see or suspect that problem, you've got to have her hand expressing. If she has access to a pump, an electric pump is ideal, but if she doesn't have that, hand expressing and a, hand pump, just keep the milk moving, because the way that you make milk is by moving milk. Sorry, we're leaving the ballpark and going over speed bumps. Okay. All right. Cortland's going to be getting dropped off to her family, but I want her to be able to say something to everyone. You have anything you want to say? Just say hello. She's being shy.
Well, I'm glad she got to join us tonight. Do we
I
have
am too.
any prayer requests or praises from this last month? I want to pray for Sarah and all that she does as well, and then for Christina and her husband as they're in the hospital right now. But if you ladies have any other prayer requests or praises, I'd love to close in prayer.
Hi, Shanna. This is
Hi.
Megan. So I am actually working in a different field at the moment, with clinical research, but I do feel like I'm being called to birthing industry. And yeah, it's kind of scary, to be honest, but I've just really been feeling that the Lord has been impressing this on my heart. So I'm still praying about it, but yeah, I was thinking that I want to do a doula course, but it was a thing of like really not finding anything that's Christ-centered, specifically here in Australia either. I feel like there's a gap. Very new agey, if I
Yeah.
can put it that way. And obviously I want to bring the truth and light to everyone around me, but specifically, moms and in birth. And I'm not a mom yet, but I am praying that will still happen. But yeah, if you guys could just pray that I really follow the voice of God in this, if I move into this industry, and yeah, that would be amazing.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm still willing to come to Australia though. Maybe
I
they
receive
need
you with open arms.
yes, maybe they need a Christian doula training there. So
Absolutely.
If you go, I'll go. I'll go there
awesome.
with you.
There you go.
Yay!
That'd
I'll
be
get you guys at the airport.
awesome. Any other prayer requests or praises? I knew I'd get Sarah to go on a trip with me at some point. I think that might be the longest flight though. Australia is literally the opposite, but I'm up for it. All right, let me close you ladies in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for just how you brought each and every one of these ladies together to this call tonight to just hear how you've worked and are working through Sarah. And I just pray that this touches each and every one of these ladies, and that you continue to cultivate that passion for just sharing the gospel and wherever you have them, Lord. I want to pray for Christina and her husband as they're in the hospital. And I just thank you that he's alive and doing well, and starting to be on the path of recovery, Lord. I just pray for Christina and her whole family in this time, and the wisdom of the doctors and the providers surrounding them, that they can help to find solutions, and that her husband will get well soon. I pray for Megan, and just that you bring her a community of Christ-minded, like-minded birth workers that she can do community with, do life with, work with, network, and thrive, not doing this work alone, Lord. I pray that you give her wisdom and discernment of how to move forward in the ways that you are leading her and calling her. Help her to step out in faith and take the next step as you lead, Lord. I just thank you for each and every one of these ladies. just continue to be with Sarah and all she does locally and internationally, and the opportunities and the doors that you open, from working with women in outpatient to teaching women in Colombia and beyond, Lord. I just thank you for her willingness to serve moms and babies and then educate the next generation of birth workers to go out after her, Lord. I just thank you and praise you in your heavenly name. Amen. All right.
And I thank you all for the opportunity, and just blessings to all of you, and just keep doing his work. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Sarah. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
And thanks for letting my granddaughter listen in. She's the next generation of great midwife, I think.
Yes. Awesome. I love it.
Absolutely.
All right.